Tell me or I'll rip it from your mind.
No!
Then I'll take it from you, neuron by neuron! All of it, Molnari! All of it!
You were raised by the core, clothed by the core. We are your father and your mother. Don't force us to do this.
They don't force us to do what? Zach, you cannot harm me. I'm tired of being pushed around, Captain. My mother was like you, a telepath. What happened back then is not your fault.
The perfect model of what it meant to be in the Corps. Do you know what it's like when telepaths make love, Commander? You drop every defense, and it's all mirrors reflecting each other's feelings. Deeper and deeper. Until somewhere along the line your souls mix. And it's a feeling so profound it makes you hurt.
The evidence we need to bust him. You see, there's this little thing called due process. We're kind of funny about it. Anything yet?
Negative.
If I had my talent working, I could have warned you when he was coming.
And if I had a baseball bat, we could hang it from the ceiling and play piñata.
A piñata, huh? So, you think of me as something bright and cheerful, full of toys and candy for young children. Thank you. That makes me feel much better about our relationship.
It no longer matters who started it, Chikar. It only matters who is suffering.
No.
Hello everyone, it's your Bud. In today's video, I will be talking about telepaths from Babylon 5. They're also known as Teeps by humans and Nafariki or Mindwalker amongst the Narns. The Narns being a reptilian race that evolved on a hot desert planet. The details of telepathy in Babylon 5 are perhaps the most pivotal spoiler in the entire series. I mean it. Learning the truth of telepathy is equivalent to learning all about the One Ring and Mordor before you've even left the Shire, or learning about Santa before you're ready to, or like the Easter Bunny. So do not look this stuff up. I have cherry-picked info, so you will not get any spoilers here. Watch Babylon 5. It has 5 incredible seasons, and at the current time of recording, I like it more than Star Wars or Star Trek. Yeah, it is the best sci-fi series in my opinion, followed closely by Stargate SG-1. So please don't spoil yourself for a great show and go watch it. So in today's video, I will be discussing telepathy and its many facets in Babylon 5. First though, an overview. Humanity is a newly introduced species to the intergalactic community. They have engaged in several wars, and eventually they send an expedition to find one of the oldest races and make communications with them. They came into contact and misinterpreted the greeting. This old race, one of the oldest in the galaxy, the Minbari, did as their custom demanded, opening gun ports to bear all and show that they had nothing to hide. The nervous humans misunderstanding and firing a devastating blow upon this first Minbari vessel that they had encountered, killing the Minbari's greatest spiritual leader, Dukat. The subsequent holy war the Minbari engaged in to take revenge for the killing of their leader only ended in a strange, unexplainable ceasefire at the very edge of the Earth's atmosphere. This final battle between humans and Minbari is known as the Battle of the Line. It was humanity's last stand, going to be humanity's end, until the Minbari ceased their brutal crusade in an instant. The truth of which is only learned in the final seasons of Babylon 5. As well as this tense Minbari-human ceasefire that is turned into a long and uneasy peace, there are also the Narn and the Centauri. The Centauri Republic was the most grand nation in space, a very much Roman Empire that's in decline, its last hope hinging on conquering the reptilian Narns and bolstering their failing empire. And the Narns have suffered so much under the Minbari that they have changed as a culture. In this universe, there are yet more, some smaller players and some with grand plans that unfold over countless years. By far the most mysterious and the actual oldest race known to humanity is the one known as the Vorlons, whose entire culture has been interpreted through the minuscule amount of information gained about these titans of knowledge and wisdom. Even the Minbari know almost as little about the Vorlons as the rest of the species. Each Vorlon seen throughout history wears an encounter suit that completely covers their appearance, and as such, their true form, intent, purpose, or power is yet unknown. And once again, if you even type the word Vorlon into Google, you will have the entire 5 years of this show spoiled, and it will be all ruined, so do not do that, okay? So in this galaxy, humanity does what we do best, build communities. Babylons 1 to 3 were destroyed, and Babylon 4 vanished in less than 24 hours after opening. But humanity's newest space station, Babylon 5, has stayed so far. As the commander of Babylon 5 said, when something is important to humans, we rebuild it, no matter how much it takes. So now that you have an understanding of the galaxy humanity has entered into, let's talk more about telepaths. Telepaths have a few incredible powers, one of which is mind reading, referred to as scanning. The others are controlling other beings' thoughts and relaying messages, and their power has only just begun to be understood by the younger races. Each species treats their telepaths differently. The Minbari praise them, the Centauri and the humans control them and use them in a military capacity or as like secret police. And the Narns, well, the Narns just killed them all. When the Dreamwalkers, as the Narns called them, appeared on Narn, that is the name of their home planet and their species, they were met with prejudice and distrust, eventually turning to violence against them and the elimination of the gene of telepathy from the Narn race. Telepathy is something that happens when a gene is strong enough in a certain being. Just as a gene can determine the color of the hair and how vivid that color is, the gene for telepathy acts in a similar manner. In fact, one of the very first interactions between the Narn ambassador Jakar and the human Psi Corps is the trade for quote-unquote genetic material to make new telepaths, but I digress. One of the best characters from the show is Susan Ivanova. She's like a second in command, and her mother was a telepath. And humanity has 2 rules for telepaths: join the Corps or take suppression drugs. Ivanova's mother took the drugs, and then after years of depression, took her own life. You see, as Ivanova said, can you imagine what it is like to feel your mother love you? Ivanova did not inherit her strength of power, but just enough to have an awareness of others' feelings. When her mother was forced onto the drugs so that a telepath would not be free and walking about in human communities as the rules dictated, she lost that ability to feel the feelings of her children that she had for her whole life, and it would be as though everything became pale and distant. This toll is one that is repeated again and again in human society, with family after family, so much so that even before the Psi Corps was formed, humans with telepathic abilities left Earth in a group known as the Family. The Family traveled the stars and then eventually split due to ideological differences, half of which went back to Earth and founded the Psi Corps to control and regulate. And their saying from the Family still holds in their ranks: we're your family, the Corps is mother, the Corps is father. And as harsh and truly terrifying as the Psi Corps of humanity can be, at least humanity did not follow the path of the Narns and kill them all. There are different ratings of telepath from P1 to P12, a P12 being the equivalent of a thermonuclear device in power and destruction. And yet, in other races, the power level goes even higher, as many of the younger races have just started to learn how to control and enhance their power generation after generation. One of the Psi Corps members who's assigned to Babylon 5 was forced into an arranged marriage. That's what the Psi Corps engages in, arranged marriage to create yet more powerful telepaths for humanity. That's how they breed them. So many of the most powerful telepaths seek to leave the core or avoid its gaze entirely, and as such an underground railroad has been created to escort telepaths out of Earth space and out into the wider galaxy. And of course, the best port of harbor for the start of that journey is the human-built and operated station of Babylon 5. 5 miles of floating city in space that almost any species has the freedom to do business on, a perfect place to disappear into the infinite. For those who are starting to clue in, Babylon 5 is the Citadel from Mass Effect, and there are more spoilery similarities I will not discuss between Mass Effect and Babylon 5, as this is really one of my top 5 sci-fi ever. Babylon 5 is really one of the best, so I'm not going to do any more similarities. So in yesterday's video, we discussed biotics and their appearance in Mass Effect, and how religion and society had to change for them. Well, we mentioned it a little. In humanity's case in Babylon 5, the change was forced upon the telepaths themselves, either forcing them into the core or forcing them into a life of crime. So many of the establishments of humanity have changed surprisingly little, despite what you would expect. Instead, having new organizations created to monitor and administrate these newly discovered telepathic humans. Now, I haven't done a good job clarifying the power yet. Telepaths read minds and can scan people, but there are also empaths. Now, telepaths feel emotions and have an empathetic ability, but one is not called an empath for that. One that is called an empath has a great ease as what is known as pushing a feeling into one's mind, affecting judgment and implanting suggestions without the brute force required by other telepaths. And then, above all this, there are those with telekinetic powers, able to move objects. But as of yet, any being that holds a high enough psychic rating is often not a stable individual, and as such, telekinetic abilities are a tier of telepathy that has not yet been achieved by the younger races in great enough numbers to make use of it. Now, even with all the suffering that telepaths have to go through in the core, there is yet an even more disturbing use for them, to root out confessions in the mind of murderers, or if the murderer is found guilty, to perform the dreadful and feared mind wipe, removing any semblance of personality from the guilty and replacing it with a cooperative and efficient member of society, essentially using telepathy to lobotomize and reprogram them to harmless, docile members of society. Talia Winters, one of the Psi Corps members assigned to Babylon 5, said that her scan of a serial killer still haunts her to this day, having to spend time in his mind and connect on such an empathetic level. Another telepath, Lita Alexander, is put through just as much pain and suffering in the cause of saving lives and Babylon 5 many different times. In fact, out of all of the characters in Babylon 5, the ones that suffer the most are often the telepaths. And then there is Byron, the man with a dream of a homeworld for telepaths, a dream he will fight for no matter who crosses him, and ever chasing after him are the Black Omega fighters of the Psi Corps, searching space for rogues to lovingly bring back into the family of the Corps. And yet another one of these rogues named Jason Ironheart is one who became the apex of telepathy. As he said, "You cannot harm one who has dreamed a dream like I have." Jason Ironheart was a telepath, a member of the Psi Corps, and a former lover of Talia Winters. After an experiment in which his telepathic abilities were greatly enhanced, he became a new being and left humanity. His powers grew to such a level that he ascended into a being of pure energy. Before departing, he thanked Babylon 5's commander, Sinclair, telling him that he would see him in 1,000,000 years. Unbeknownst to Sinclair, he was referring to when humanity will have evolved. And as a final gift for his former lover, Ironheart gave Talia Winters the ability to use rudimentary telekinetic powers. So, after that day, the power of telekinesis was given to Talia Winters, and much of the goals of the Psi Corps changed to replicate this transformation. Now, anything more about telepaths would be heavy spoiler territory. They become one of the most pivotal parts of the final clash in the series, and before that, they are a key part in learning of assassinations, coups, political secrets, technological advances by other races, and so on. And this is not only describing the human telepaths, it describes the telepaths from the many races. Although when it comes to the other races, I have said little about the Centauri telepaths, as Centauri act very similar to how many humans do, and the Narns have none to call upon. Yet there is one final, non-spoiler piece of the puzzle: dust. dust was an illegal narcotic that temporarily increases the telepathic ability of a user, allowing them to commit a form of telepathic assault. And this is a quote here from Bester. For those who recognize Bester, Bester played Chekhov on Star Trek, so he was the one in the beginning who killed that guy with his mind. And this is a quote here from him. "You know, I said all along this whole dust idea wasn't going to work. We spent 5 years developing this stuff, and it hasn't produced one single telepath of acceptable strength." So dust was designed with a genetic key that stimulates the telepathic gene present in many races. Though it was made primarily for humans, it has been proven to also work on Narns, even with their greatly diminished genetic telepath potential. So the Narns did kill all their telepaths, but that just means they killed all of them with a gene strong enough to utilize telepathic powers. The gene still exists in the Narn physiology, and dust can bring it out of them. The Psi Corps' intent was to increase the psi strength of existing Teeps, and perhaps create new telepaths out of the mundane population. Although partway through they realized that giving normals telepathic ability was a horrendously bad idea for the Corps. So what did you think of this topic? Are you interested in the universe of Babylon 5 and the powers of telepaths? I sure am, and I cannot tell you how many times I almost wrote psyker in the script instead of telepath. The learning of telepaths' existence in human society in Babylon 5 is extremely similar to the discovery of psykers in 40K, and I always think of Babylon 5 as the 40K golden age, when humanity made trade deals with other races and even non-aggression pacts. In 40K there are even non-aggression pacts with the orcs in the golden age. I always think of Babylon 5 when I think of the dark age of technology, aka the 40K golden age. The destruction or elevation of humanity as a collective species that could occur through the knowledge of telepaths or psykers is greatly and subtly played with in the series Babylon 5. It is incredible the intrigue and dealings of day-to-day business contracted by the Gondor v Mordor levels of war that occur in the later series makes this a must-watch. So do not look up telepaths, Vorlons, or anything else. The wikis are filled with spoilers. You can barely get through the very first paragraph of any of these things I've talked about without a major series-ending spoiler. So just go watch it for yourself. I bet you can buy the entire series all on DVDs cheap like I did. You will not regret it. So thanks for watching. If you want more Babylon 5, then leave this a like. Babylon 5 is one of my top 5 sci-fi ever, and I mean that even with movies. So it probably goes Babylon 5, then Stargate, then Star Wars, then Star Trek. That's what it is for me, so Babylon 5 is awesome. Subscribe for daily videos. I make at least one video every single day, and leave any questions or suggestions in the comments below, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching.